Hi, Nicole. I am so excited that you're here. Like I mentioned to you just before we jumped on, I've been following you for a while and I've been fascinated by the 5 Minute Bookkeeper. So I would love for us to start just like what brought you into the world of finance? What was that journey into finance?
Of course. Thank you so much, Isha, for inviting me. I'm excited to be here as well. So for me, finance kind of, I don't know, it wasn't something that I really thought about. I wanted to be an accountant. Actually, I think one of the first seeds that was planted was when my grandmother, I think I was 6 or 7 years old. And you know how when you're young, and I grew up in Jamaica, my grandmother said to me, what do you want to be when you grow up, Nikki? Because they call me Nikki at home, right? And I said, oh, I want to be a lawyer because, everybody wanted to be a lawyer. I had
Doctor,
no idea what
lawyer.
that was. And so my grandmother said, and please, lawyers, do not come for me. My grandmother said, oh my gosh, no, lawyers are liars. You want to
Okay.
be an accountant. And I'm like, and I think from then that seed was planted. And now that I look back at it, I don't think I would have been a good lawyer. Anyway, so she said, you want to be an accountant? And I kind of went with that, but I also figured out that I was really, really good with numbers. And I went to high school in Jamaica. And when you get to what we call sixth form, so it's like the British system,
Yeah,
it's like the first year of college and you kind of start choosing your path, right?
yeah,
And
yeah.
of course, I was in like business, accounting, finance, and it just evolved from there. And I kind of, yeah, as I've said before, just been kind of thrust into this world and found that I liked it and stayed, right?
Hmm,
So yeah,
hmm.
that was from a little kid. The
Yeah, so from
um,
early on already, like you had a sense like numbers were your thing
yeah,
and yeah. Oh, that's awesome. Like most people like, it takes them a longer time to find their place, but for
yeah.
you it was seemed to be very instinctual. That's awesome. And what inspired you to start the 5 Minute Bookkeeper?
Oh my goodness. So the 5 minute bookkeeper, again, another happy accident. Because I had my grandparents were business owners, right? They owned
Okay.
a store in Jamaica. My grandfather was always, like he always was a businessman. And I feel like the entrepreneurial, way is in my blood somehow.
Okay. Yes.
And even though I was working a job and, their entrepreneurship was a lot of hard work,
Yeah.
right? Running a business, morning till night. It's not like very nice and online and easy like it is now.
Hmm,
And so they wanted us, their dream for us was to have a nice corporate job where it's safe and then we work for years and you have a career and all that. And so, but even though I was doing that, that entrepreneurial bug was always there, right? And so I used to have my corporate job, but I always had a business on the side, doing something
hmm.
on the side. And so one of those businesses, I actually went full time when online marketing just started. And in 2013, 2012, 2013, I
Yeah.
came online. I was learning how to market, learning how to blog, the usual things that you learn when you come online in the
Yeah.
early days. And doing really, really well, and was not paying attention to my finances. Now, for somebody who started out on the finance track in my career, worked with the Jamaican government as their accountant, just always been in the finance space, I got to my own business and I didn't pay attention to my finances. And
Oh.
maybe we could unpack that on another
Yeah, that
podcast.
feels like a whole story right there.
Yeah. And so I was like, wasn't paying attention and got to the point where I was in so much debt. And I was an affiliate for a company and they went out of business and I literally lost my income. Yeah, lost my whole income
Wow.
and kind of took my head out of the sand and realized that I was in debt and how did I get here? basically, right? And got to the point where we were actually had to file bankruptcy. And
Wow, Nicole, that's
yeah,
huge.
and
So let's pause here for a moment if we can, because I'm really fascinated by this this piece around like you were doing it here for the Jamaican government, but you weren't doing it here. What was that split for you?
I am not 100% sure. Like I'm thinking because I said to myself, Nicole, you know how to do this. You know how to do your own bookkeeping. You've been doing bookkeeping and accounting for years. And I still don't have an answer as to
Hmm.
why I wasn't paying attention. And but you know what, too? When you're getting paid like from a job and you have to, you're trying not to get fired.
Yeah, it's a
I have
different
something
animal.
to do with it. So you kind of, this is my job, this is what pays my bills. But then to transfer that over to a business, I did not pay as much attention. And
It's a
I
different
probably,
muscle.
yeah. And I probably just thought that, the income would always be there, the company would always be there. And
Yeah.
so never really thought about it until it wasn't, right? Until it wasn't there
Yes.
anymore. And so I remember leaving the bankruptcy court and I said to myself, Nicole, you know how to do this, right? You have done this for many years. You just now need to do it for yourself. You need to become a good steward of your money. And I literally left the courthouse that day and I came home and I opened Excel and started to create a spreadsheet for my accounting.
I have chills hearing that, like that moment of transformation and just
Yes,
wow. Yeah.
yeah. So yeah, so that's what I did. And I finance, I love, numbers, I love, and I'm pretty techie. I'm a pretty techie person. So if you like, I figure things out. And then my husband as well, he's a network engineer, so he's a computer, like two computer geeks in the house, got together and started to build these little spreadsheets that were very easy to maintain, right? Because when people hear Excel and spreadsheets, they literally, yeah, they literally like go, oh my gosh, spreadsheets. I hate spreadsheets. And I'm like, no, you only hate spreadsheets that are not efficient and that it's not properly created, right?
Yeah.
You hate
Yeah.
spreadsheets because you open a blank spreadsheet and you literally type instead of write on paper.
Yeah.
That's not an efficient spreadsheet. But now we started to create systems that linked. We could figure out how much money we were spending for dining out or groceries or subscriptions and literally kept a tight budget. Also, because it was necessary, because now remember, we had no credit. So we didn't have anything to fall back on. We literally had to live off what we earned.
Wow.
And
Okay.
so that was, the thing that kept me going.
Mm-hmm.
And I was in there every single day, Isha. And it literally took me 5 minutes because how many transactions as a business owner or even in your household, you don't have a ton of transactions unless you have a huge family and you
Yeah.
spend a lot every single day. You have about 2 to maybe 5 transactions daily, right?
Yeah.
How long does it take you to manage that? To go to your spreadsheet, to make your update, 5 minutes, right? And that's why it's called 5 Minute Bookkeeper, right? Because it's if you dedicate 5 minutes every single day, build that muscle, build that habit. Sometimes it takes you a shorter time. I remember a client, Stacy Reed. Stacy
Oh, I know
said,
Stacy.
yeah, Stacy, she's a client for a 5 Minute Bookkeeper, and she made a game. She kind of gamified it, and she said, I did my bookkeeping in 4 minutes and 57 seconds. And
Oh,
so
wow.
that's why I created 5 Minute Bookkeeper because I'm like, you can be on top of your finances in 5 minutes a day, right? It brought me back from the brink of,
Yeah.
it brought me back from bankruptcy and helped me to create this multiple six-figure business in 4 years.
Wow.
Yeah.
Like talk about a comeback story.
Yes.
And and when you talk about the 5 minute, just that just 5 minutes a day, just 5 minutes a day, and the repetition of that, right? I often talk about like, having money dates and really having a love affair with your money. And that reminds me of like the advice that they give couples to just like, 5 minutes a day, just have like that connection time. And I'm thinking
Yeah.
like the connection time with your money, just 5 minutes a day. And you're right. I was going to say 5 transactions a day, just record them and
Hmm.
then be done. Like
That's
that.
it.
Yeah.
And by the way, we have money dates in our community. So I'm happy that you mentioned that. We have every Friday we have co-working sessions
Oh,
and we call them money dates. So, every Friday we have folks who come to our money dates, keep on top of their finances. And these are people who were way behind with their bookkeeping, finances
yeah.
out of whack, a mess, right? And they said that, not me. They said it was a hot, hot mess. And they're like, this has kept me accountable. This has have me feeling empowered. And yeah, so we do have money dates as well built into our program.
So when people purchase the 5 minute bookkeeper, they become part of the community.
Yes,
Oh,
and it's
wow, that's
all available
amazing.
to them.
Wow, so the accountability is built in. That is awesome. Um, what has been, let's see, like what, I oftentimes when you think about bookkeeping, like people think of it as being very dry, but I'm looking at the smile on your face and you're so excited about it. Like
Yeah,
I want to hear about like what makes it juicy, what is so different about this, because I've been I know that this year I'm gonna buy the 5 minute bookkeeper. Like it's on my to do like to buy list.
I
So
love
I'm
that.
I'm really interested in it. So yeah, so like what's different about it that you see from like other, let's say bookkeeping or accounting apps?
So it was created specifically for entrepreneurs who are doing their
Okay.
own bookkeeping and they hate it, right? I literally created a bookkeeping tool for people who hate bookkeeping
Okay,
because
okay.
what it does, it gives you such a simple and easy way to do your bookkeeping that you've never done before,
Yeah.
right? And it's because first of all, when you think of bookkeeping, as you mentioned, you think of boring, a drag. Oh, do I have to do this? And so what I did was kind of change the narrative, and I'm like, how do I make bookkeeping enjoyable? And honestly, when I started 5 Minute Bookkeeper, I didn't even think of that. I didn't think of, making it enjoyable. I'm like, how can I make it pain, a little less painful, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
And so it moved from being less painful to people are like, I'm enjoying bookkeeping. Like first of all, they're not even too sure if they should be saying that. Can I say it's like I enjoy getting, stabbed in my neck or something. I don't know. It was like, oh my gosh, this is so amazing. I love this. And we have tons of testimonials. We even have clients who literally send us messages and they're like, where do I leave you a testimonial? You know how sometimes you're like pulling teeth to get people to leave a
Yes.
testimonial? I literally have my clients reaching out to me because they can't believe that first of all, they never knew about anything like this before. And second of all, they're doing their own bookkeeping and it feels empowering and it feels good, right?
Hmm.
Bookkeeping feels good to them. And so they, want to make sure that I know that and that they also spread the word about
Yeah.
finance.
Yeah. Wow. So I'm imagining that a lot of people who are sort of the avoidant types or the ick types, they end up, yeah, like you said, they end up enjoying it and they feel like there's like healing that happens just through this app, right? Like just being able
Yes.
to pay attention to their money. I love that. And yeah, like when people come to you, like is that sort of the major issue that they have is avoidance or they don't like it or they find it to be a drag?
Um, I would say it's 50-50. 50%, they don't like it, they've never been doing anything about it, and now they just want to get it done because tax time is here.
Mm-hmm.
They need to file their taxes. On the other hand, there are about, again, 50% of folks who tried bookkeeping tools and it was
Okay.
just too much for them, right? They mostly QuickBooks, I can say it. It's not created for DIY entrepreneurs, it's created for
Okay.
bookkeepers and accounting professionals.
Got it.
So a lot of folks believe that they can, everybody says, oh, just get QuickBooks, get QuickBooks. And so when they get it and they try to get in there, it's hard for them to learn. And then they believe that bookkeeping is hard, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's overwhelming for them. And so they think that all bookkeeping tools are like that. And
Okay.
so it's kind of like making, kind of it's about changing minds because people are like, is this like QuickBooks? And I'm like, no, it's the total opposite. Because if they're thinking if it's the same thing, then I don't want to have to try to learn something that is hard, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So yeah, it's half of the people there, they've tried all the bookkeeping tools and it's just been too much for them. And so they really are looking for something simple.
I'm really curious about your process of creation, right? You said you came home in this like transformational moment. You sat down, you created the spreadsheet. You were just kind of like, I'm done. Like, let's do this. What was like even the creation process? I'm just curious about that. I love sort of getting in people's minds about like the innovation behind, right? Like, yes, you had this like, let's make it easy, or let's make it, I need something for myself and maybe other people can use it. What was like even just like the technical part, like how did that all come together?
So for years of working in corporate, I
Yeah.
learned how to build little systems, spreadsheets,
Okay.
analyzing tons of data. You
Okay.
definitely cannot do that manually. You have to create systems. Excel is amazing with a lot of formulas that you can create. And so I just literally use that. And I'm the kind of person who if I feel like it's time to do this thing, I found out recently, I'm not sure if you're into astrology, but my astrologer did my human design,
Yes.
figured out that I'm a manifesting generator.
Yeah.
And so what happens is, as soon as I get the idea and I feel in my body that it's right,
Yeah.
I'm off to the races, right?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so when I came home and I'm like, yes, this is what I'm going to do to bring us out of this hole that we're in. And so I just started creating it, right?
Yeah.
And it was so easy, like as I said, because I knew the tech and I knew
Hmm.
what to do. I literally knew what to do years before Isha, right? It's just a matter of implementing it and be like, you know how sometimes we know what to do, but we just have to get to that, we
Yeah.
go through all the pain. And again, B5 manifesting generator, apparently I have to learn all the lessons.
Right, right.
So,
Yes.
so like, okay, I knew what to do then. I'm ready to do this now, right? So that was
Yeah.
my process in terms of just creating the tool for myself.
Yeah.
And then, using it for years and years and years and, you know, getting to the point where we were saving money again. Of course, we had no credit card debt. And so I was like, this really works because you can literally see how much you're spending dining out, how much you're spending on groceries. We need to get rid of this. We can add that in, whatever it is. Just having that financial picture just
Yeah.
calms my nervous system, right? And
Right. Like having the overview, and you have the
yes,
overview every day because you're checking
yes.
every day.
Yes,
Oh, yeah.
exactly.
Yeah.
It's really like, just think about the finances and when you don't know what's going on,
Yeah.
right? I remember times I used to look at my bank account and on the weekend I would have like, I don't know, $500 in my account. And then by Monday morning it's like, you have minus $25 because there's something coming out, you totally forgot that bills were coming out. And
Right.
so
Yes.
that used to be so anxiety inducing when you think you have the, but guess what? If you're keeping track, you're expecting that, oh, this is supposed to be coming out on this date, or that is supposed to be coming out. So if it falls on a weekend, you know that, oh, by Monday, it's going to hit my bank account, right?
Right.
So those were little things. And sometimes we don't think about that, or sometimes we just, it's not a big deal. But I promise you, when you get to the point where you are, able to be on top of that, and you don't have to wait until you have a lot of money to manage your money, right?
Ah, I love that. Yes, that's
Yeah.
what people need to hear, right? Because it's like, oh, my
Yes.
business needs to be this size or I need to be
Yes.
making this much money to take advantage of something like this.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
And I usually say, as long as you as soon as you start your business, right? Even if you're not making income right away, then you have expenses, right? You're investing. You're investing in systems, maybe a coach, maybe a program, whatever it is, you have started investing in your business and you need to start keeping track from day one. And that will, later on, you don't have to go back and be overwhelmed trying to pull it all together.
Hmm.
So that was my process. I used it. I'm like, other people must need this. And then I remember that, and I wasn't in business yet, by the way. I wasn't in business. And
Wait, so you had created the app for yourself? You have created the
yes,
program for yourself, but you hadn't launched it for
to
the.
others.
Oh, wow. How long was that process, like from the moment that you created it to when you actually shared it with other people?
Um, I would say about a year and a half.
Okay.
Because, I was like, and I had gone back to a job, a corporate job. And by this time, I had gone back to work. I was now working with the CEO of Easter Seals. So do you
Yeah.
know Easter Seals?
Yeah. Yeah.
And it was at the same time, and let me tell you how the universe works. I was, my son Brandon he was about 3.5 years old. I started to work with Easter Seal, and he was going to preschool. His language development wasn't that great, but we're like, how people would say, oh, they're boys, they take longer.
Yes.
My daughter was talking like full sentences at 18 months. At 3 years old, he was saying like one or two words. But we weren't worried because his first word was elephant at 10 months old, right? So we're like, it's just, development taking a little while. And then I got the job with Easter seals. Never heard of Easter seals before. Apparently it was, very popular and a lot of people knew, but I never knew about them. And so the September of 2016, I'm going to say, I started working with Easter seals, and they had an autism academy and an area for an adult daycare for Alzheimer's clients, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Clients with us, Alzheimer's. And I noticed that there were some behaviors that Brandon had that some of the kids in the Autism Academy had, right? At this point, I never knew anyone with autism. And so never occurred to me that he was autistic, but started to kind of see the behavior of some of the kids. And then the February of the next year, so maybe like 6 months later, or 5 months later, his preschool teacher said to me, or a principal said to me, I think you should go get him checked out at Child Find for get his hearing checked or something because he wasn't listening, was walking around the classroom when the teacher was teaching and stuff like that. And so I think she knew he was autistic, but she didn't want to. First of all, I don't know that you can just tell a parent, by the way, I think your child is autistic.
Exactly.
And again, I didn't know anyone, but when she mentioned that, and I read up on the place that she sent me, I realized that they also did screening for autism. And then I started to like put two and two together. But I feel like working with Easter seals those few months before prepared me for the diagnosis that my son, by this time he was almost 4, that he was on the autism spectrum, right?
Yes.
And so I had my job. I was now dealing with a child with special needs, and his quote unquote symptoms started to get worse after the diagnosis, which is very strange because sometimes how parents will notice some things and then they say something is wrong. He got diagnosed, and then we started to see a lot of the behaviors and stuff after that.
Wow.
So I was dealing with that. We were in the middle of, my job, but I just never thought about doing 5 Minute Bookkeeper or any finances with anyone. But then I thought about Brandon, right, my son, and I said, there is no way that a job with a not-for-profit is going to be the way that I take care of this kid, right? By
Yes.
this point, he had to get ABA therapy, had to get speech therapy, occupational therapy, copay. We had copays and deductibles and all kinds of special things that we had to do, right,
Yeah. Yeah.
for him. And then what really, really pushed me to now put my entrepreneurial hat back on is I went to get ABA therapy for him. And they used to come into our home at 6 in the evening. Can you imagine? I've worked a whole day.
Right.
Brandon has had a whole day at school. He was in aftercare. Now he comes home, there's this woman or man or whatever in his face, and they're telling him what to do. You know what I mean? It's like
Yeah. Yeah. It doesn't work.
the days were so long. And I said to myself, I want to be able to be home, work from home, so that I can be here, the therapist can come earlier. And, just first of all, making more money, right? Because a fixed salary wasn't going to be when
Hmm.
I cut it. Have the therapist come in. So I wanted to create this life for him that we don't have to be tired and, long days and longer nights to get this therapy done. And that kind of lit a fire under my butt for me to, how can I do something else? How can I create this side hustle? And I literally started to use my spreadsheet to do bookkeeping for clients one-on-one.
Okay. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because I was wondering, like, what was the transition there? Like, what was that
Yes.
pivot point?
Yeah. So I
Okay.
started to do that. And then clients were like, oh my gosh, I love this. I can see exactly what's going on with my money and what I'm spending it on and et cetera. And I used to do personal and I started to do business as well. Because I remember when I was, filing taxes and had to figure out, okay, 1 year of bank statements, credit card statements, get my highlighter, do this. And so I'm like, let me do this for businesses and for personal. But then I figured out really quickly that having a job and doing this one-on-one was just not going to be, I wasn't going to be able to make the kind of income that I wanted to make.
Yeah.
And so I started to search for, how could I package this so I can just sell it as a digital product where the entrepreneur or the person takes the tool and they go off and do it themselves and, like create short videos and just show them how to do it.
Yeah.
And that took about, I'm going to say, another year and a half
Oh, wow.
figure out the
Okay.
right tools and how to package it because I'm like, I don't know how to do this. And so another year and a half to get to the point where I could just package it. And the other thing too is that a lot of people have, hangups around their finances, and there's shame and there's embarrassment, and they don't want you to see their money, basically,
Yeah. Yeah.
right? So even if I could get a ton of one-on-one clients, it was going to be easier for me to hand over something easy and say, you take this and you go ahead and do it yourself. And I'll be here to
Mm,
provide support, and we'll have supportive community and
yes.
giving them that additional support that they might need. So yeah, that's how I did it. Started as a side hustle, started to work one-on-one with clients, and then figured out in a year and a half how to create a course or a program that entrepreneurs can take and do on their own.
And I love how you describe sort of the process of scaling, like through this experience with your son being on the spectrum. You're just like, okay, this is not working. How can I like grab more time for myself? How can I support him? I'm going to need more income. How can I scale this? Or how can I use the tools that I already have and do like a one to many? You started first as like
Yes.
one to one, then one to many, right? I love the idea of just looking at like what your needs are, your time needs, your family needs, and being like, okay, so how can I do this with the tools that I have? Like I love that. And I love that, that's often the case that, people's why come from situations like this, right? We do things for our children that maybe we don't do for ourselves. Like our children really motivate us to like think bigger, in terms of
Yeah.
like what we can create in the world, our influence. And, speaking of which, like you've been featured in magazines and on television, I believe.
Yeah, so I was featured on Good Morning America for growing my business so quickly.
Yeah.
Featured on Good Morning America.
What was that like?
Oh my gosh, first of all, it was surreal because like a year before that, or even not even a year before that, I was driving to Miami to my day job, just dreaming about, okay, when can I stop having this long commute? And
Right.
just like in less than a year, I was at home, working from home, doing my business. So that was amazing. And then I flew to New York, and this was in the middle of the pandemic, by the way. And then I flew to New York for the Breakfast Club. So we were on the Breakfast Club.
Oh yeah.
Um, there's a show that's called Wealth Wednesdays that they had when
Yeah.
I forget her name right now, was on the
Yeah.
show. But anyway, they had Wealth Wednesdays, so I went to that as well, talking about 5 Minute Bookkeeper and how you build wealth by managing your money, right? And if you
Hmm.
have an easy way to manage your money, then you build wealth even faster because you're more
Yeah.
like you care more about it, you're more empowered, you're more accountable because this is easy, right? This is a piece of
Yeah.
cake. And then I was in Black Enterprise, and Time had an investment arm, or section
Yeah.
featured in, and my story about building this business right after filing bankruptcy, and kind of over like a that overcomer kind of
Yeah. Yeah.
story. It resonates with a lot of people, and I'm happy to always share it just because I know that there are people at different stages of their lives going through something similar, and I just wanted them to know that it doesn't have to define you. You don't have to stay there. As long
Yeah.
as you keep moving forward. And the thing about it too is that you get ideas. The more if this is really what you want, whatever you're focusing on, the more you look for the solution, it usually appears, right?
Hmm.
It usually comes, from, don't worry about, I don't know how to do this. Help usually comes. And that's what happened with me. I had no idea how to create a digital product. But then I have friends that were in programs that invited me. I had, just different ways of going online, an ad will pop up on your screen. You're like, oh my gosh, how did they know that I was looking for this thing, right? So, the universe helps you, right? To
Yes.
get to that dream, whatever that dream is. And I feel that a lot, that's been a lot of my life as well, is just getting the help at the right time, taking advantage of, opportunities and stuff like that.
Yeah. Yeah. And you got featured in these media outlets as like someone who like, you know, scaled their business so quickly. But, in in our time together, you've talked about that it's been a process,
Yeah.
right? Like there was a lot of buildup and development to the point where then you launched the thing and then it took off, right? Then it took off like crazy. But there were many years prior to
Yeah.
that. Yeah,
Absolutely. Can we pause a second, Isha? I heard something drop. I don't know
absolutely.
what it is.
I'll
My husband
pause.
is here.
And when you began to share this with a bigger audience, right? When you began to market this, what was it that really worked in terms of helping people see how it could help them? Like the marketing aspect. What worked for you?
What I realized was that marketing was not as hard as people made it out to be,
Okay.
right? And so, first of all, I was in a container, in the Hello 7 container, where there were
Yes.
entrepreneurs, right? And so, what I would do, I literally, first of all, I had built an entire course before that, and it flopped, right? Nobody wanted to use it. It was too difficult because I was teaching them how to create their own spreadsheets. And they're like, nobody wants to do that. It's too like, oh. So when I went to that container, um, the teaching was do not create anything until somebody says yes and they're willing to pay you for it. Like they give you money, right? So that's how launch it comes about, right? Because you're like, I'm launching something in a month or 2 months. This is what it does. And if you get people to buy into that before even seeing a product or without building the thing, then that's how you really know that it's needed and not waste time, create something that nobody wants.
That's brilliant.
Yeah. So I was like, I said, okay, how would you like to have a bookkeeping tool where you could do your bookkeeping in 5 minutes a day? Very easy, very simple system. A lot of people raised their hand.
People went nuts.
People were like, what? 5 minutes a day? Are you kidding me? I don't even remember if I even had a demo for it. I literally just said, I'm going to teach you how to do your bookkeeping in 5 minutes a day. No more scrambling at the tax deadline. No more fighting with complicated bookkeeping software. People were like, sign me up.
It was just that good. You didn't even
Yeah,
need to.
absolutely. And the first person that said yes and was going to give me money, I did not even have a checkout page yet. And I said to her, hang on, let me go get a checkout page created. And then I went the next day and she bought. And I'm like, okay, proof of concept,
Yes.
right? And so that's listen, overnight success, my overnight success took 20, like over
Yeah.
10
Yeah.
years. So there is no overnight success. It's always, like you're testing and tweaking and failing and succeeding and learning and all of that in one. When the final product comes out, it was perfect.
Yeah.
Like literally, I've been selling the exact same product for 4 years just as it is, making like a couple of tweaks here and there if a few clients might ask for something or whatever, but it's the exact same thing and it doesn't change. Like tax time comes around twice a year, regular tax time, extension
Yeah.
season. If you have a business, you need bookkeeping, you need to manage your finances if you want to stay in business. So it doesn't change, that doesn't change, right?
Right.
And so my message doesn't change either. It's like, do your bookkeeping easily, stop fighting with the other stuff. That's it.
Simple, simple, practical, right?
Yeah,
Like that's exactly what people need. They need simplification.
yeah.
Yeah. And like what are, you said that this app or this program has been just working for you haven't made a lot of tweaks to it.
Mhm.
What's your long-term vision for what you're doing?
So my long-term vision is for 5 Minute Bookkeeper to be a household name, right? For especially among DIY entrepreneurs to get to millions,
Yeah.
right? My vision is to have millions of people using 5 Minute Bookkeeper, and that's it,
Yeah.
right? Changing
Yeah.
people's lives, like the transformation is amazing, and I want more people to get that,
Right. This builds
right?
literacy. This builds confidence. This
Yeah,
like unshames it, like it gets people out of avoidance. Like
yeah,
the ripple
so
effect is
much.
huge. Yeah. Yeah.
Absolutely. And
Wow.
it wasn't intended to do that, right? And even now I
Yeah.
still intend to do it, but people are like, this is what it did, you know?
Exactly.
So
Exactly.
I'm like, oh, okay, maybe they're onto something there. But I
Yeah.
literally was like, there's an easier way to manage your finances. Here you go.
Okay. Okay. So if somebody like myself wanted to buy 5 Minute Bookkeeper, where would they go?
So I'm 5 Minute Bookkeeper on Instagram and Facebook. They could also reach out to me directly on my personal Facebook, Nicole Barham. And the website is 5minutebookkeeper.com. The number 5minutebookkeeper.com.
Okay. Okay. That's awesome. This has been it's been such a delight to sit with you and hear your story and hear your process. Like I think that it really illuminates the entrepreneurial journey so well in terms of like, the scaling, this personal stuff with your son and how that then, right? Then you have to like find solutions
Yeah,
for like lifestyle, like how you want to build a lifestyle, and then the impact that you have without even realizing at the moment of the inception of this project, you don't realize, and then, right, then you get the
yeah.
feedback from people. It's just amazing. Thank you so much, Nicole. Yeah, thank you for being here and sharing your story and making the time for this.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me, Isha. This was great.